I mean, I think, to your point, I think that one, right, where, I mean, some men get their whole sex education from porn, right? And
Hmm.
they really believe that, women should just orgasm upon penetration. And I think that that's one of the biggest myths. And I think that that causes a lot of damage to women, right? Because when they're not able to, what people don't realize is that porn is theater, right? Like, so if you're paying to go to the theater and watch somebody perform a show, then that's fine. But you have to understand that that's not reality. And I think that that does a huge disservice to women. There's something called ethical porn that I guess, is created by women that's a little bit better. But I think porn does a huge disservice to women. I think that, we haven't had research in women's health, right? Until like 1993 is when I think they started to incorporate women in studies. So it's unfortunate, right? But that it's taken so long. Women's health was not prioritized. Women's research wasn't prioritized. It was only a few years ago that we found out that the clitoris had, instead of 8,000 nerve endings, 10,000 nerve endings. And that research was done by a friend of mine, Dr. Maria Oloko, who's a urologist out in California. And so, I think that we haven't had the research. A lot of people get their information from sources like porn, which is unfortunate. And so, and then not being able to have these conversations, right? Feeling that they're taboo or wrong or shameful. And then not being able to have conversations with your physician, right? Like physicians are not trained on sexual education. They're not. We don't get that training. In medical school, I got maybe 2 hours on sex education, mainly the physiology and things like that. In residency, and I did a 4-year OBGYN residency, I got nothing, zero on sex education, right? On sexual health. Female sexual dysfunction, forget it. I learned nothing.
Yeah.
So, where are people supposed to go? Where are people supposed to go to get this type of information? I mean, I don't know, either now because we have so many people on the internet, on social media, talking about this, now you're able to get more information. But, growing up, you and I, and I'm assuming perhaps you're in midlife, just as I am, that we weren't able to get this, right? We didn't have access to this type of information. So where were women supposed to get this information? I'm not really sure. You could have, tried to look in Encyclopedia Britannica.
The real actual book. Yes, I know. Get the card catalog out at the library and pull the
Right,
encyclopedia out.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's crazy. So now I think I'm grateful that there's so many researchers out there, a bunch of my people that head up Ishwish, right? That's a fantastic organization. I didn't even learn about Ishwish until, again, like 4 years ago, when I started to do that course at the University of Michigan on sexual counseling and education. That's where I found out about Ishwish. But I mean, gosh, if physicians don't know where to get this information, right? How are lay people supposed to get this information? I'm not really sure.